What's going on, everybody? What is going on? It is Friday, February 16th, 2024, and we are back with another live here on the Torian Rain Reloaded channel. I hope everybody is having a good day. I hope everybody had a good week. If you're watching this on YouTube, because I am multi-streaming, I'm actually streaming on YouTube as well as Instagram. I think this is the first time that I've done the weekly live stream on Instagram. I have done a couple of midday streams, multi-streaming between YouTube and Instagram, but I think it's the first time I've done the weekly Friday one on Instagram. So everybody who's on Instagram, shout out to y'all who are watching over there. Shout out to everybody who is in this chat right now. If you haven't done so already, make sure to go ahead and hit that like button, hit that share button, hit the subscribe button if you are new, and shout out to everyone who has come through. I had quite a good subscriber boost like in the last day, and I think it's all a tribute to that video I did yesterday. The numbers did very good on that video I did yesterday, talking about those south of the Borderians, and I told y'all I was coming heavy with it, and the numbers actually did pretty good when I posted it up as a reel on Instagram as well. So shout out to everybody over there as well. But before I go ahead and get into everything, let me go ahead and acknowledge the people who are here so far in the chat. We got Hack Sign KT, Ice Spider, Lala Papa, DSA1, SD Johnson 857, Jerry Bedford, Cyberdyne 100, Steve, Mac, Songwriter Sunny, Tawana Cook, Denise Scales, Carlton Way, Wallow J, Letitia 007 Spidey 2, Gail Jones, DC Precise, Jermaine Smith, DSB, Gmaul T, Tina Thomas, Cosima Fury. Shout out to, forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Desiwa Dash. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, but shout out to you for subscribing to the channel. Zava Xavier, Kels 517, Lakeisha Mitchell, Lady Messenger, and Moochie. Let me go and see and acknowledge the people who are watching over on Instagram. Shout out to Cardigan Mafia, Lewis Ashen, Reese's Scoli. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name again. Asia the Bird, Karima _ Aya, and Jerry 7351. So shout out to everybody who is watching this. As I currently have 56 people in here, make sure y'all go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you are new, I would greatly appreciate it as well. I think I put up a Patreon video. Was it yesterday? I think I put one up yesterday. I'm telling y'all, if y'all have not subscribed to the Patreon, I highly suggest that y'all do. And the way that I have the Patreon set up is, if you are not subscribed to the Patreon, I have it set where you can get a 30-second preview of whatever video it is that I'm putting up that day. And I try to put it at the most wildest part of the story. That way it'll entice you, so to speak, to want to subscribe so you can hear the whole story as well as the other stories that I put up over there. Because I'm telling you right now, those stories are absolutely insane. Trust and believe me when I tell you that. And if anyone is over there subscribed, they can tell you the same exact thing. Let's see who else do we have in here. We got Pinky JYB just entered the building as well. I'm glad that everybody is here so far. Like I said, we have quite a few stories we want to talk about today, but as you always know, we always kick it off with the update stories. If there's no Black excellence stories to mention, I always start it off with the update stories. And if there's none of those, then we just go right into the actual stories that came out this week. What's going on, Savion? So I'm gonna go ahead now and just go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and share my screen right quick. So the first thing we're going to start talking about is actually a story that I talked about last week, but there's actually more information that has come out since then. And that is Courtney Clenney's parents. As y'all know, she was the woman who deleted her boyfriend, Christian Obumseli, about 2 years ago, and she's currently now on, well, I think her trial has begun or is about to begin from what y'all told me, but I believe her trial is about to begin or has begun, but they're trying to keep it as low key as possible. But last week I talked about her parents and how now they are in the hot seat because they got exposed for basically evidence tampering. Well, some more stuff has come out about them. And also shout out to Lisa Cabrera because she's been on top of this story as well. And shout out to DSB for the $5 super chat. He said, let's get it, family. That's exactly what we're doing. We just getting started. So look at this. This is coming from Radar Online. OnlyFans model Courtney Clenney parents don't think their daughter would be prosecuted if she were black. Now, that's some BS right there. They are literally trying to say that if their daughter was a black woman, then she would not be in the position she's in right now. That just tells me all I need to know about her parents. There was some other stuff that came out about them too. I don't know if it's going to be highlighted in this article, but we're going to talk about this one right here. OnlyFans models Courtney Clenney's parents attempted to defend their daughter by claiming that she wouldn't be prosecuted if she was black, according to Radar Online. The model has been accused of hurling a racial slur at her boyfriend, Christian Obumseli, in an effort to get him to leave. The disturbing incident came to light during a recent interview with Courtney's parents, Deborah and Kim Clenney. This is not the first time that Courtney's use of racial slurs has come to the public's attention. Earlier this year, Christian secretly recorded Courtney repeatedly calling him the N-word during a heated altercation. I wonder where she picked that up from. The audio, which has since gone viral, paints a harrowing picture of the toxicity that plagued their relationship. Deborah and Kim, who are now facing criminal charges for illegally accessing Christian's computer after his untimely death, spoke candidly about their daughter's behavior. Deborah revealed that Courtney had been attracted to Christians partly because of his race, which raises questions about the motives behind her use of such a derogatory term. The mother claimed that her daughter told her no self-respecting black man would stick around after being called that name. She also told TMZ that she doesn't think their daughter would have been prosecuted if she were black or if Christian were white. According to Courtney's parents, their daughter's actions should be viewed in the context of self-defense. So they're still hanging on to that self-defense claim, even though every bit of footage that we've ever seen of them together always paints her as the aggressor. And I mean every bit of it. The OnlyFans model has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder after fatally stabbing Christian in the chest. The case is expected to be closely watched as it unfolds. As RadarOnline.com previously reported, Courtney presented 4 new witnesses to the court to aid in her murder trial just days before she pleaded not guilty to an additional charge of interception of wire communications related to her boyfriend's death. In court docs submitted January 31st and obtained by Radar Online, the former social media sensation who claimed she acted in self-defense during the fatal stabbing listed the names of John Paul Salib and Emmanuel Paris, both of whom are in Canada. Prosecutors claim Christian's death was the tragic end of a tempestuous and combative relationship that began in November 2020. Courtney's attorney, Frank Prieto, claimed that Christian was abusive, while his family said that she was the aggressor. And the thing is, when you look at all the video footage, she's definitely the aggressor. Like, I mean, I'm talking about when she's being physically aggressive and verbally aggressive. Like when this one, I saw a video where this woman was yelling to the top of her lungs and it sounded like her voice cracked. And on top of that, she sounded like she came straight out of a trailer park. I mean, I'm talking straight up trash. And what's going on, Dre Mac? Glad you in the chat. He says, we don't need another Grace Jabari. Send that B to jail. Oh, definitely. That's what they're trying to paint this up as. You know, she's the innocent, delicate flower, and he's the big black boogeyman that was just acting like King Kong, and he was attacking her. But everything we saw shows that she was the one attacking him. Now, keep in mind also how this woman acted after she did what she did. She didn't have it's not like she didn't have no remorse. What did she do? She jet set on a plane. It took 2 black women who noticed her, because she probably didn't think people knew who she was, that exposed her and said, wait a minute, aren't you that chick that took out your boyfriend? Like, she's just sitting there casually in some kind of a resort or hotel lobby, just sipping on drinks. Like, she did not just delete her boyfriend like a couple days prior. That's like your typical psychopath right there, where you can just do something like, oh, okay, I'm gonna just go. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she was with her dad. So I think it's safe to say we know where Courtney gets it from. She gets it from her parents. So that's that update right there. So let's move on to the next update, because like I said, we always going to knock out the updates first, and we're going to move on to this one. So everybody remembers that infamous video that went viral where you had this black man who was on trial, and he was before this judge, and he launched himself. I'm still trying to figure out how he was able to do that. How he launched himself over that high desk and tackled her and began to physically assault her. Like that video was insane. Like, if someone would have told me that was a skit of some kind, I probably would have believed them at first, but then noticing that it was real, it's still kind of like mind-boggling. But the update with this story right here is, it says felon who attacked Vegas judge during sentencing now indicted by grand jury for attempted murder. I'm not in the least bit surprised that they was going to throw the book at this dude. I mean, anybody who saw that knew that was going to happen. A man who leaped over a judicial bench and attacked a Nevada judge during a sentencing hearing in Las Vegas last month that was captured in a courtroom video that went viral has now indicted for attempted murder. A grand jury returned the 9-count indictment against Deobra Redden. I'm not sure if that's actually how you pronounce his name, but I'm not sure if it's Deobra or Deborah, but I want to say it's Deobra. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Age 30, in Las Vegas on Thursday. His arraignment is scheduled for February 29th. Clark County District Court Judge Mary Kay Hothus was about to deliver Redden's sentence in an attempted battery case on January 3rd when he lunged over the bench at her. Courtroom cameras recorded as Hothus' clerk and a court marshal fought with Redden to restrain him in the wild video that was widely viewed on the internet and social media posts. A week later, Judge Hothus sentenced him up to 4 years in prison for the battery charge he had pleaded guilty to in November. Yeah. The new indictment for attempted murder alleges that, hold on, y'all. Okay, y'all, I'm back. One thing that got me with this whole situation right here is look at the mask that they got him wearing. When I first saw this picture, I immediately thought of Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs. That's the first thing I immediately thought of. And also just look at the imagery itself. He got that mask on right there. They have him chained up. They got something around his hands. All they needed to do was strap him to that little gurney thing, and wheel him in the courtroom, and they would have had it right then and there. That's the immediate thought I had when I first saw this. The new indictment for attempted murder alleges that Redden attacked Hothus by grabbing her, pulling her hair, placing his hands around her throat, and or hitting her on the head by manner and means unknown. He's also accused of punching and or kicking and or pushing a Las Vegas police officer. A lawyer who represented Redden at the initial hearing did not immediately return a phone message seeking comment on Saturday. Redden's foster mother, Karen Springer, and older sister, LaDonna Daniels, told reporters outside of court last month that Redden has been diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, though court records show he was found competent to stand trial. Now, isn't that interesting? They actually saw that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, but they just dismissed it and say he was found competent. But if you flipped it on the spectrum and the usual suspect came in there, all they would have to say is, I have a mental illness. I have a mental disorder, but they don't specify it. They never tell if it's been diagnosed or not. And then they can say, oh, well, you know what? We're going to have to postpone the trial a little bit until we find them competent to stand trial. What if I told y'all, when it comes to this establishment and this system that we are in, Black people are never given the benefit of the doubt when it comes to mental illness, even if it's documented by a licensed physician. Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson said at the time that Redden's adult criminal history included convictions for 3 felonies and 9 misdemeanors, mostly involving violent acts. And that's the part they're going to use right there to throw the book at him, which of course they've already done. I'm surprised they only gave him 4 years, considering I thought they was going to give him more. But yeah. Ricardo said that brother proved that Red Bull does have wings. Did he fly over that bench or what? He sure did. That man launched himself over that bench. Like, and you got to think, look at how high this bench is. That's high. That's not even waist level. That's literally like, if she was to tell them to approach the bench, you're talking about it's probably chest level, not waist level, but around chest level, depending on your height. And this man launched himself over that. He cleared that whole bench. You know, if he wasn't in the position he was in, he could have tried out to be a part of that pole vaulting, because he clearly has the stamina to leap over this bench, or be a hurdle jumper or something. My goodness, that's a high bench. Moochie said, "Oh no, they want to make him look like a monster. Meanwhile, the illegal immigrants, they are going to throw the book." Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I have 2 of those stories that I'm gonna be highlighting in the next couple of minutes as far as updates go. So that's that story right here. So this next update is a very familiar story that many of us are all familiar with, and it's crazy how it's been over a year since this happened. It's crazy how fast time flies. So news about Tyree Nichols is back in the headlines again, and basically what they've come out and say as it pertains to these degenerates who did what they did to him is that their trial has been pushed back for them. Now, I don't know how far back it's been pushed, but it sounds to me like it was coming up and they found something, or this is because I actually heard about this. This is what I believe. I truly believe that whoever their attorneys are trying to find a way to get all of them off, but there's no amount of evidence in the world that's going to clear them. None. Let's be real here. We all saw that very brutal and gruesome video for ourselves last January, and it pissed everybody off. Everybody. We didn't care that the cops who did this to him were black. It's the fact that they did it, and they had no shame when they did it. See, many people are under the impression that, oh, black people are only upset when black people lose their lives at the hands of white cops. No, we were pissed about this. Very, very pissed about it. And that was one, and I stayed on top of the story. I said, I hope they get everything they deserve. Throw the book at them. I'm glad they started losing stuff too, along with their jobs. So let's see if we can read this and find out when this new trial date is going to be. Which, by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to try to bury this too. The federal trial for the 4 ex-Memphis police officers charged in the beating death of Tyree Nichols has been pushed back 4 months. Last week, U.S. District Judge Mark Norris changed the trial date for the former cops from May 6th to September 9th. So that's the new date, September the 9th. Well, we'll say that's the pending date, because anything could change between now and then. But they moved it from May 6th to September 9th. I'm telling you, they don't have a case to defend them. The fact that they had to move it from May 6th, which is still a few months away, it's not like it's tomorrow or next month, to September 9th, you're talking about moving it into the 4th quarter of the year. They are trying their hardest to get their clients off, or at least get a reduction in charge. But I don't see it happening. I really don't. After defense lawyers requested more time to prepare for court, what in the world were y'all doing all this time then? Lawyers said they needed more time to review more than 800 gigabytes of video documents, as well as other evidence in the case. In other words, let's see if we can find a loophole somewhere that we can use. That way we can get them off. Loosely translated, of course. This case has a number of moving parts. Stephen Ross Johnson, the lawyer for former officer Emmett Martin, told the court, "We just need additional time." Last month, officials in Memphis released hours of more video footage from the fatal police beating of Tyree Nichols more than a year ago. Portions of the dozens of videos recorded by police body cameras show officers involved, including the 5 former cops charged with Nichols' brutal murder following a traffic stop, according to the Memphis Commercial Appeal, which reviewed the footage. The previously unreleased video also shows police trying to criminalize Nichols and claiming without proof that the 29-year-old was on drugs after officers said they tasered him without achieving the desired effect. Footage from the officer's Chris Wilson's body-worn camera showed officers move Nichols from below a street sign, leaning him up against a car. Demetrius Haley, one of the 5 ex-NYPD officers who has been criminally charged, begins explaining what he saw to other officers who had just made the scene. "That man got tased with the prongs running down effing Ross," Haley said. "He's on something bad. We did him up, won't stop. We did it again, won't stop. I'm talking about finna take folks out in oncoming traffic and everything." After a brief pause, Haley walks off camera shaking his head and said, "F man." And shout out to Denise for the $5 super sticker. Wilson, who was not facing criminal charges, then walks over to former officer Justin Smith, asking what up, before giving him a fist bump. And I believe that's the PC cop right there. So to all the people out there, to that Daniel Schmidt that I had to clown, what was it, last week, who says black people have privilege, how is it that black people have privilege when you have this one white cop who's not criminally charged along with these other 5 black cops, and he was there involved in what happened to Tyree Nichols as well? Let's talk about privilege now. While standing over Nichols, officers can be heard speculating that Nichols is high as a kite before talking about the force they used on him. "It was just a traffic stop," the one officer who cannot be seen on camera said. A previously released video showed Nichols trying to speak with officers before one pulled him from the car and took him to the ground during that initial traffic stop. "He's strong as an MFer," former officer Tadarius Bean said to some of the bystanders as EMTs evaluated Nichols. Attorneys representing Nichols' family said they have also obtained the footage. "As our legal team reviews the new body cam videos of Tyree Nichols' horrific death at the hands of Memphis police, we expect the videos to affirm what we have said from day one, that there was absolutely no justification for the officer's brutal and inhumane actions," attorneys Ben Crump and Antonio Romanucci said in a statement emailed to News One. "We will continue our unflinching look at this tragedy and stand strongly with Tyree's family in their continued grief and fight for justice. The dozens of videos released on Tuesday can be viewed," and they just gave a link. Memphis officials said they will be releasing additional documents in the case in the coming weeks. And it's more additional information, but it's just like a rehashing of it. So that's that update right there. Yeah, so yeah, they're trying their hardest to find anything that they can to try to get these clowns off, or at the very least some kind of reduction. Sorry about that, y'all. But yeah, they're doing this because they're trying to find a way to get them off. That's really all it boils down to for me. Let's see what y'all talking about in the chat. SD Johnson says Hemphill was the one continuing to instigate that act of humanity. Right. Ricky says dirty cops, they're trying to get them a lighter sentence. Oh, definitely. Most definitely. Let's move on now to the next story. And ironically, the next story involves the South of the Bordarians again. And shout out to Moochie because she actually brought it up. And I told her to, wait until we get there because I definitely had something to talk about with them. So it says migrant released in Times Square police attack arrested in Queens robbery. So this is a repeat offender. And I think I talked about them. If not, then I'll be talking about them right here.
Now to our other top story. A teenage migrant in New York City arrested for a second crime in just weeks.
19-year-old Darwin Gomez Izquiel, arrested in Queens yesterday. Cops say he took part in a robbery at Macy's, and police say he was also part of this group that attacked 2 NYPD officers in Times Square just a few weeks ago. News 4's Melissa Russo live in the newsroom with the new details coming in here. Melissa.
Adam, as you know, at first, the fear was that the migrants who were arrested and released had all skipped town and might be in the wind. That turned out not to be true, but Governor Hochul today raising concerns that defendants, including this one, are potentially being released to go on and commit more crimes.
Arrested for the second time in under 3 weeks, 19-year-old migrant Darwin Gomez Izquiel facing charges in connection with a robbery at a Queens Macy's last night. Law enforcement sources say Izquiel is wearing the orange hat in the video of that assault on police in Times Square last month. He was one of several defendants charged and released, prompting some public outrage.
And this individual, who I believe they thought had gone to California, was actually right here robbing a Macy's.
Police say Izquiel served as a lookout at the Queens Plaza Mall last night. Will he be held on bail? I asked the Queens District Attorney, but she wouldn't say.
We are still investigating the case, and that is all I can talk about at the moment.
2 additional migrants indicted last week in that Times Square incident are also now under arrest. One in the Fila jumpsuit, the other in the light gray hood and black jacket. With more of these defendants taken into custody, the question remains, will the Manhattan DA request bail now? I asked Governor Kathy Hochul about Yohenry Brito's release from jail yesterday. He was the first migrant to get physical with cops in Times Square that day. Governor Hochul has repeatedly said if someone assaults an officer, they should remain behind bars.
He was the only person in Manhattan who actually was held on bail. And yesterday we reported that he posted bail and was released. So if you believe that people who assault police officers shouldn't be out of jail, they should be in jail pending trial, then is there a problem with the state's bail laws as opposed to just the failure to ask for bail?
No, what you're talking about is an area that's entirely up to the discretion of the judge.
Governor Hochul said that she believes that some judges in New York State are simply unaware of the full level of discretion they have to influence bail or to remand defendants.
So y'all just saw that right there. Hold on, y'all. They just letting them just run rampant, as you can see. They want to act like they don't know what they can do. Hold on. They want to act like they don't know what they can do when it comes to this type of situation, when they know damn well what can be done. But they're just choosing to allow this to happen. Keep in mind, this is the same city where Alvin Bragg is the DA. And we know his history, Shady Alvin Bragg. This is on his watch. He spent a good part of last year going after Jonathan Majors, but you got this going on. Now you got to ask yourself which one weighs more, Jonathan Majors or what y'all just saw. And shout out to Byron for the $20 super chat. He said, continue this blessed work, brother. Oh, definitely. And I appreciate it. Wallow J says, summer is coming. Oh, yes. It's still cold now, but when it gets warm, and it will get warm, because I've been to New York when it's been warm and hot, they really going to show off. I think I called it right down the middle when I said, well, this is the new criminal class. I think I called it. But not to be outdone about what just happened right here, The next update I'm going to bring you also involves the south of the border in also the same state in New York. Migrant teen held without bail over concern he would try to flee after chaotic Times Square shooting that injured tourists. Now, I talked about this last week. I definitely remember this one. This was the one that was in Times Square. He had shot the tourist. He got into a shootout with the police, and then he had fled. They ended up catching him. Mind you, this is a teenager, y'all. He fled, and they caught him. I believe he was only like 15 or something like that. Yeah, he was 15. And they brought him back. For me, at this point, it's pretty much wash, rinse, repeat. A 15-year-old migrant who allegedly shot a tourist while firing at a security guard and later aimed his gun at the NYPD in Times Square tried to flee the city with his mom. Peep that. He tried to flee the city with his mother. What I'm telling you, natural born fleers, they flee their homeland and they do this stuff over here and then they flee the state. And was held without bail at his Saturday arraignment because he would likely flee again. Jesus Alejandro Rivas Figueroa shot at the guard and struck the Brazilian tourist in the leg on Thursday night before shooting at cops who chased him as he fled to a subway station. He then returned to his home, and he and his mother immediately began to flee, something they know all too well, prosecutors said Saturday. They packed up all of their belongings and by 6 a.m. the next morning had vacated their home and fled out of the city. The two were caught less than 24 hours later at a house in Yonkers, where he was hiding behind a wardrobe in a further attempt to evade police. Prosecutors asked the judge to send the teen to jail without bail because he has significant ties to the United States and has only been here for a short time. Huh? See the excuse that they're trying to give him? He's only been here a short time. Well, they need to send him back home for a long time. The teen also admitted his involvement to police, prosecutors said. Much of the incident is captured on extremely clear surveillance video from which he was easily identified. Based on all of this, it is clear that he is facing a significant sentence of incarceration on this serious case and cannot be trusted to return to court. The teen, who did not enter a plea, was charged as an adult but will be sent to a juvenile facility because of his age. Now look at this right here. I'm not going to play the volume, but he up there crying. I don't know why he crying. What did they say? You do the crime, you do the time. Apparently that's not something he's been taught. But if in a perfect world, that's what will happen. Rivas Figueroa was charged with 2 counts of attempted murder, assault, attempted assault, and 2 counts of criminal possession of a weapon. He listened through a translator at his arraignment and didn't say a word. Police Benevolent Association President Patrick Hendry said the teen believed that he could find and carry an illegal firearm. He believed he could fire that firearm into a crowd on the street. He believed that he could try to kill a New York City police officer. That's what he tried to do. He tried to kill a New York City police officer. Rivas Figueroa, who was ushered to court by 2 detectives, wore the same dark t-shirt and jeans he was photographed in during his arrest, walking into court with a scowl on his face and his hands cuffed behind his back. He shook his head when asked if he spoke English, and refused to answer when a Post reporter called his name and asked why. The U.S. Marshals Joint Regional Fugitive Task Force and the NYPD collared the armed and dangerous Venezuelan teen in Yonkers on Friday. A woman can be heard wailing in a video that shows that he's been taken into custody around 3:30 p.m. Friday at what sources said was the home of a relative on Saratoga Avenue. The teen also wept. The arrest came moments after NYPD Chief of Patrol John Schell, during a news conference, had identified Rivas Figueroa as a person of interest in the shooting. The teen arrived in September and had been staying at a temporary shelter at the Stratford Hotel on West 70th Street. He is also a suspect in a January 25th incident in Midtown, in which shots were fired at a park on 45th Street, and a January 27th gunpoint robbery in the Bronx. These are all separate crimes that he did. So you have what he just recently did last week. Then you have what he did on the 25th of January. Then what he did 2 days later on the 27th. 3 different crimes, and they just let him roam free. I told y'all, when it gets to a point where someone else is actually hurt and harmed, that's when they're going to make their move to try to say, okay, now we got to handle it. You know, it could have easily not gotten here. I mean, we know what should have been done, but like we always say, common sense is not common. Police said Rivas Figueroa and 2 other teens, all migrants who attended school together, were trying to shoplift from JD Sports, a sports fashion retail store on West 42nd Street and 7th Avenue at around 7 p.m. Thursday when they were stopped by a security guard. Rivas Figueroa allegedly pulled out a very large 45 caliber handgun and fired at the guard into a crowd. While the guard wasn't hit, Brazilian tourist 38-year-old Tatiel Ribeiro, who was in line waiting to buy sneakers and texting her husband, was struck in the leg and dragged herself to the back of the store as a pandemonium ensued. The gunman and another 15-year-old boy bolted, with Rivas Figueroa allegedly opening fire on a cop as he ran away towards West 46th Street, Shell said. Video footage allegedly shows the boy, who was in an all-white outfit, and the other teen bolting from the store. Cops patrolling the area began chasing them, with one of the officers snatching the unidentified teen and the other continuing to run after the gunman. He turns once, he fires towards our officer, Shell told reporters of Rivas Figueroa. Our officer takes his gun out and he cannot return fire because there are too many people in his way. Our suspect goes through the cut between the buildings. He's running, he takes the gun out, and under his armpit, he fires again. Now, you know, if this was a black person doing this, it would have never, ever gotten this far. He even had the privilege of being arrested, as y'all can see by this picture. Exactly on Leah's. Now, that is a thug right there. MTA video footage then showed the suspect bolting into the 47th and 50th Streets of Rockefeller Center Station at 6th Avenue, where he went on the tracks before emerging and escaping onto the street. And that is the whole article right there. I'm still trying to, after reading all of this, I'm still trying to figure out this privilege that black people in America allegedly have, because, you know, there's some people out there that believe we got it. And keep this in mind, y'all. He's 15. He's not a grown adult doing this. I'm telling you, the bad habits that they had over in their homeland is what they bought over here. Let's just say they're not sending their best or their brightest. So that takes care of that. So now that I've gotten all of the update videos, stories out of the way, that was the last update video, as in the video or a topic that I talked about, but I'm just giving you an update. Let's get into these stories right here that are pretty much fresh, hot off the press. And we're going to start with this one. Donald Trump. It seems like we in New York quite often, y'all. This is extremely breaking news involving 45. Trump has been fined more than $350 million in a New York business fraud case. Now, the way I found out about this was because the last story I just talked about, they had the banner up there and it said breaking news. And I said, let me go ahead and talk about this. It's right here. It's a fresh story. It's not looking too good for 45 right now, but we shall see. Ragnar said, is this a pro-Trump or a pro-Biden channel? I'll let the chat answer that one. A New York judge Friday ordered Donald Trump to pay more than $350 million in total penalties as part of his ruling in the former president's civil business fraud trial. Manhattan Supreme Court Judge Arthur Engoron also barred Trump from serving as an officer or director of any New York corporation or other legal entity in the state for 3 years. And Trump is banned for 3 years from applying for loans from any financial institution chartered by or registered with the New York Financial Services Department. New York means business is combating business fraud, Engoron wrote in a 92-page ruling. The judge delivered the final decision from the trial, which was held without a jury. Trump is expected to appeal the ruling. The explosive trial stemmed from New York Attorney General Letitia James' lawsuit accusing Trump, his 2 adult sons, his company, and top executives of fraudulently inflating Trump's assets to boost his stated net worth and obtain various financial perks. James had asked Engoron to ban Trump for life from the New York real estate industry and for $370 million in a disgorgement, a term for returning ill-gotten gains. Instead, Engoron fined Trump a total of $354,868,768. The judge also ordered Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr., who took over the Trump Organization after their father became president in 2017, to pay fines of more than $4 million each. Eric and Trump Jr. also faced 2-year bans from serving as officers or directors of any New York corporation or legal entity. Co-defendants Alan Weisselberg, the Trump Organization's former chief financial officer, and the company's comptroller, Jeffrey McConey, are permanently banned from controlling the finances of a New York business. Friday's decision is only the latest court-ordered punishment imposed on Trump, who was running for president while dealing with numerous criminal and civil lawsuits. Last month, a jury in a separate civil case in New York federal court ordered Trump to pay $83.3 million for defaming writer E. Jean Carroll when he responded to her claim that he had violated her in the mid-90s. Trump is the clear front runner for the Republican presidential nomination, setting up a likely rematch with President Joe Biden, who beat him in 2020. Trump has frequently raged against his many legal battles as witch hunts, claiming they are part of Biden administration-backed conspiracy to tank his political ambitions. He denies all wrongdoing in the New York fraud case, blaring his claims of total innocence on social media, at the courthouse, and even on the witness stand. Trump claimed to be worth far more than what was reported on his financial statements, while asserting that a disclaimer on the records protected him for liability for any inaccuracies. But Trump and the other defendants were found liable for fraud by Engoron even before the trial began. In a bombshell pre-trial ruling, Engoron granted summary judgment on James' main cause of action, that the defendants committed fraud in violation of New York law. Engoron found that Trump's statements of financial condition between 2014 and 2021 overvalued his assets between $812 million to $2.2 billion. The ruling raised Trump's defense claims, accusing him and his co-defendants of trying to convince the court to not believe its own eyes. Engoron also ordered the cancellation of the defendant's business certificates and the appointment of an independent receiver to manage the dissolution of Trump's corporate entities. Some experts have described the ruling as a death penalty for the Trump Organization. And there's some more additional information right here, but yeah, it ain't looking too good right now for 45. It is not looking too good for 45 right now. But you know someone who needs to be checked up on? Someone check on Terrence K. Williams. You know how much he loves him some Trump. And he will hang off of Trump's every word. I might actually go and look and see what Terrence K. Williams is going to be saying as it pertains to this after I get off this live stream. So, yep, that's that right there. The next story we're going to talk about is what happened in Kansas City. Now, as y'all know, the Kansas City Chiefs, they won the Super Bowl for the second year in a row. It is what it is. Okay, oh well. And of course, as you all know, every time a Super Bowl team wins, they always have a big parade in the city for that particular team. And it's always a joyous occasion. It's a festive occasion. You know, people travel out of town for this, especially if they have a team that they like that's not in the state that they are in. Unfortunately, this one ended in tragedy and shock and horror because a shooting happened at this event. Now, according to reports, they said that it was 2 teenagers that did it and that they have arrested them. They haven't identified them because they are teenagers. So because that they are minors, they're not going to give out their names. Wait a minute. Hold on right quick. Hold up. Win, lose, or rug, a hack sign. Win, lose, or rug is not a wasn't a troll. Because I was looking through the chat. I'm like, why did win, lose, or rug get timed out? Yeah, win, lose, or rug is not a troll. But yeah, so let's see what's going on here. 2 teenagers detained after Wednesday Super Bowl parade and shooting in Kansas City have been officially charged. Well, see, that's the thing, Carlton. If someone gets timed out, then you got to wait for their time to expire. It's a difference between if they got like what's the word that I'm looking for? Not timed out. I can't think of the word right now. It's something else that if something else happens, then I could easily just brought them back in. Hid them. If they were hidden, then I can go and unhide them. But they were timed out. So once that happens, I can't do it until the time expires. The Jackson County Family Court Division said Friday that the 2 unidentified juveniles have been charged with counts relating to gun possession and resisting arrest. The court also said that additional charges are expected in the future as the investigation by the Kansas City Police Department continues. One woman, Elizabeth Galvin, was killed and over 20 people were wounded by gunfire minutes after the Chiefs parade rally ended. Half of the wounded were kids ages 16 and under, and the youngest victim is 8. Children's Mercy Hospital has said that all 9 of its patients with gunshot wounds are expected to recover. Kansas City police have said that shooting stemmed from a dispute and was not related to terrorism. Per Missouri law, adults detained after an incident must be charged within 24 hours or they have to be released. Since the teenagers are juveniles, Missouri law allowed them to stay in detention through Thursday afternoon due to a court order. Thursday, the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office said the 2 teens would be tried as adults if and when they were certified to stand trial. If the teenagers are allowed to be charged as adults, the case will be moved from family court purview to the prosecutor's office. Police have blanketed the Kansas City area with communications asking for information from potential witnesses and have set up a tip line specifically for Wednesday's incident, while the FBI is asking for photos and videos from people who were in the area at the time of the shooting. The shooting happened on the southwest side of Union Station in an area where thousands of people had gathered. The Chiefs celebrated their 3rd Super Bowl victory in 5 seasons on a stage in front of the train station after the parade, and fans had gathered in the area for hours ahead of the rally. A GoFundMe has been set up for Galvin's family, and Taylor Swift has donated $100,000 to the fundraiser. Galvin's 2 daughters were among the wounded in the shooting. Galvin, who was 43, was a DJ for a Kansas City radio station. That's sad and unfortunate. That is sad and unfortunate. And I don't know if the Dre Max show is still in here because I know he lives in Kansas City. And I remember in his chat when he was live the other day, someone had asked him, was he going to go to the parade? He said nope, because he said, and these were his words, I'm not trying to get jacked. And what are the odds that literally the next day this came out? And I immediately thought of what he said. These events are fun to go to, but you got to be careful because you never know who's out there. Now, I remember years ago, back in 2018, the Washington Capitals, who was the hockey team in DC, they won the Stanley Cup. First time in franchise history, so that was a big deal. And because of where I work at, I ended up going, me and a couple of my coworkers ended up going. It was no problem out there, but man, it's a lot of people. But still, at the same time, you have to be on your P's and Q's because you just never know what's going to happen. Now, we don't have any more additional information as to why they did this. We don't know what kicked off for this shooting to actually happen. But the sad, unfortunate thing is that it happened. Someone lost their life and people got injured. So with all of that said, even if we never found out why this even popped off, we do know for certain that someone did lose their life, unfortunately. So let's now move on to the next story. Now, this story right here, it is a very unfortunate story, but it's something behind it that I really wanted to address based on something I posted up on X. But before I get into that, shout out to Hacksign KT for the $2 super chat. He says, I'll own up to my mistake, B1. Hey, listen, it's okay. You probably thought that they were trolling. You may not have seen them before, but yeah, I'm familiar with Win, Lose, or Rug. And I think you probably thought they were trolling because they were responding to people in the chat in a way that you thought meant they were coming off kind of trollish. But now, Win, Lose, or Rug is definitely not a troll. I promise you that. So this is a story right here that came out of Florida, where you have this pilot whose name is Edward Murphy and Ian Frederick Hoffman, who were pilots, and their planes crashed. Now, I believe that it was an error that happened inside of the cockpit or something. It was an error. It wasn't like it was intentional. It just, it just happened. It's unfortunate. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the article, and then I'm going to tell you about the post that I made on X that had a lot of PC upset when I said what I said. It says the two people who died after a plane crash on a Florida highway. Now, that's scary enough that they crashed on a Florida highway where there's other cars. Like that would have to be a scary sight. Imagine you just minding your business going along and you see a plane falling out of the sky. That would shake anybody up. The plane left OSU's airport of Columbus, Ohio on Friday and crashed near I-75 southbound near Collier County, about 46 miles southeast of Naples, Florida at around 3:15 p.m. The victims were identified as 50-year-old Edward Daniel Murphy, the plane's pilot, and 65-year-old Ian Frederick Hoffman, the co-pilot. The plane was less than 5 miles from the runway before it crashed. It slammed down onto the highway, crashing into a vehicle. The Florida Highway Patrol said that the truck driver was taken to the local hospital with minor injuries. That truck driver is extremely lucky. He must have crashed in the back part of the truck. 2 of the 5 people who were killed, while the 3 others were hospitalized for their injuries. The family of Ian Hoffman began a GoFundMe on Saturday. His son Chris wrote that the page was a way to remember his father. His last moments, calmly speaking with ATC, he tried to save the passengers and crew in the face of a desperate emergency of losing both engines at low altitude is how we will always remember him. The ultimate professional pilot with over 40 years and 25,000 hours of experience at Piedmont, U.S. Airways, Virgin American, and Hopper Jet. The GoFundMe has already raised $10,200 of his $15,000 goal. The Hoffman family also released a statement after the crash. The family is in shock and devastated, but want to express our thanks for the heartfelt support that we have received. We know our father died a hero, doing his best to save everyone he could on the plane. We ask for prayers during this difficult time. An audio recording of just before the crash has been released, capturing the victim's heartbreaking final moments. Hopper Jet 823 lost both engines. Emergency. The pilot can be heard saying to a nearby control tower, "I'm making an emergency landing. We're cleared to land, but we're not going to make the runway. We lost both engines." The audio then went silent. The National Transportation Safety Board continues to investigate the crash. So now you have an idea of how this went down. They're in both engines. Looks like the primary engine and the backup engine both died. They just faulted. And they tried to make an emergency landing, but they knew it wasn't going to clear. So that's a very scary and unfortunate story. Now, let me tell you about the post that I made up on X. I basically asked Charlie Kirk or those people over there who had some problem with wanting to fly with a black pilot out of fear that they will crash the plane or whatever the case may be. I asked them, why didn't they talk about this? That's pretty much all I said in so many words. As a matter of fact, I think I summarized, I think what I just said was more than what I posted. I think my response to this was like a 1-word or 2-line response, and that was it. Man, I had PC, the ones who came into my comment section, so mad at me for me even saying that. And I said, I'm glad you're mad, because guess what? If this was a black pilot that this happened to, same scenario, the engines failed on them and all of that, y'all would have overlooked that error and just focused on the fact that the pilot was black and swore up and down that it was a DEI hire or a diversity hire that didn't know what they were doing. Now, they said this guy had 40 years of experience, so that means he definitely had he had a good run. The same thing could have been said about a black pilot, and they would have came in literally like a horde of zombies and was ready to attack and say, oh, that's a DEI hire. All those who was screaming about DEI, DD, as I like to say it, had nothing to say about this. And when you look at most of the crashes that happen with planes, it's mainly PC who crashes, whether it's an issue such as this, which is out of your control, or something that was in your control, like maybe you had a substance in your body that shouldn't have been there. See, when I made that post on X, they thought I was making fun of the situation. No, I already knew that it was an error with the engine. But they took it as me trying to make fun of the situation when that wasn't the case. Because, see, I'm not them. If it was a black pilot, they would have did that, even with all the information out there. And we know they would have. That's why they didn't talk about this. But it's Black History Month. Who cares about their feelings? Well, shoot, out of Black History Month, who cares about it either? I bet not one of them had anything to say about this. Not one. For all intents and purposes, this might be over here, might be the first time most of y'all in the chat even heard of this story. Unless, of course, you live in Florida, then you probably did. Let's move on to the next story. Now, this one right here is coming out, well, is loosely involving Joel Osteen, but not Joel Osteen, only because it's like near his church, involving this woman named Genesee Moreno, who began firing at this church. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Leaders just held a press conference a couple of hours ago, giving us the latest timeline and the details of yesterday's shooting.
Now, before we get to our cruise, just into our newsroom here, this new video showing the moment of chaos inside the church. Many hiding behind seats as you hear possible gunshots in the background. Chilling images and sounds from this, a dreadful day yesterday afternoon. Now we have crews covering every angle of this story. We're going to start, though, our team coverage with Chaz Miller, who was at the press conference this afternoon. Catching us up, Chaz, on the new information that we have. Good afternoon.
Jonathan, good afternoon. Yeah, that suspect, 36-year-old Genesee Moreno, was named by law enforcement this afternoon. She, of course, is now dead. HPD said today they knew she had had a history of mental illness. They had also put her under an emergency detention order back as recently as 2016. Yet they say the guns that she had at the church yesterday were legally purchased. So obviously a lot more to look into there. But first, let's get into an update on where people stand from yesterday as it relates to their condition. Of course, Moreno is dead. More on that in just a second. But you also had two other people shot. One, her 7-year-old son that was with her while this was going on. He was shot in the head and is in critical condition. Now, it's unknown if he was shot by the two off-duty law enforcement officers who returned fire on Moreno or if she actually shot him. Now, those officers were with HPD and TABC, and Chief Finner says his officer was wearing a body camera that they'll review to get more information. A 57-year-old was also shot yesterday and has been released. As for Moreno, officials gave a better idea of her timeline today. They said she got to the church on the west side of the building around 1:53 yesterday afternoon. They said she then entered at 1:55, possibly by aiming a gun at a security guard. Chief Finner said there wasn't a breach of security that got her inside of there. And he said once she got inside, she immediately started firing. Here's what HPD's homicide division said happened next.
She immediately starts firing inside of the hallway on the west side of Lakewood Church. She's in the hall, not in the sanctuary. Multiple rounds are fired by her, at which point Officer Moreno of the Houston Police Department, working an approved extra job at the location, as well as TABC agent Herrera, return fire, and the exchange is all there on the west side of the building.
Now, they said she got in the building around 1:55 is when she started firing shots. They said by 2:07, she was pronounced dead by HFD. Now, Chief Finner said that her family has been cooperative throughout the investigation. And another thing that they confirmed in that press conference today was that one of those guns she had did say Palestine on it, and that in the course of their investigation, they did find anti-Semitic writings in her car. But they also said multiple times, guys, this investigation is only 24 hours old. So there's obviously a lot more to be learned as things continue. Live in downtown, I'm Chaz Miller, ABC 13, Eyewitness News.
All right, so y'all just heard that news right there. What else do you want me to say? Black First Office says when people are going to church to turn. Oh, they've been doing that. I mean, let's just remember what Dylan Roof did back in 2015. This is nothing new. This is how you get your soft target, because these are the type of people that they most likely think aren't going to be carrying. You know, it's a church, a place of worship. So like 9 times out of 10, this is perfect for them. You know? So easy targets, soft targets. SD Johnson says the Academy can't answer for this. They probably won't. Shout out to Denise for the $5 super chat. It said, if it's not for you, Torian, I'd still be watching lamestream media. Well, I greatly appreciate it. You know, we're trying to have our people wean them away from, you know, the pits known as lamestream media. So shout out to everybody who is a contributor to the new black media, and not just myself and others who get on here and talk to y'all every single day. But we're talking about people who contribute, such as yourself, being a viewer. Because without y'all, we just talking to air, you know? So shout out to y'all. Like y'all, like Professor Black Truth says often, it's not just us who get on here and does and brings these stories to y'all. It's not just us in our involvement, it's y'all involvement as well. Definitely. So I'm definitely very, very much appreciative of the contributions that y'all make to my channel. So, yep, you have that story. Like I said, what more do you really want me to say? The only thing that you can say about this situation is that they got her. let's move on to the next one. Now, the next one is not necessarily a story per se, but it is a video clip. Now, if y'all remember, I recently brought up this rapper named Logic, and I was telling people how, for those of y'all who didn't know, Logic is mixed. He's biracial. He has a black father and a white mother, but he could easily pass. Like, for those of y'all who never seen Logic before, y'all about to see him now, he could easily pass. But in this clip, he's talking to his dad, and he's going to tell his dad a story about the racism that he dealt with, not just him, but his siblings as well, at the hands of his mother, that his father apparently never even knew about. So I'm going to go ahead and play the clip, and we'll discuss.
So for those of you out there who don't know, because I would really love to discuss this, but I'm going to ask you about a specific situation and then we can get into the rest of it. My mother, Terry Lee Miller, who was married, 3-4 times, all to black men with systemic racism built into her. You know, my mother used to call me a nigger. Did you know that, Dad?
Yeah, but you want to know something? She never called me one.
She called me that. And you know who else she called that? My sisters and Jesse and my brother. That's deep.
Wow, that is deep.
Yeah, and you know what?
Especially when I'm black, and she never called.
But all her other baby daddies is what? They're all black. Mm-hmm. Before we get into all that, so yeah. What the fuck was I finna say?
I'm gonna say hi to all you Logic fans out there.
Hey, they about to be your fans, Daddy. We finna do this album together, but we're not gonna get in. We don't want to talk about that too much. We don't want to talk about that too much, Daddy. We're here first. We're healing first, and then we're stealing first.
All right, so y'all just heard it right there. That was the discussion that the rapper Logic had with his dad. The thing it was a couple of things that stuck out to me. When he said that his mother had multiple baby daddies and every last one of them were black. Basically, in her community, she would be seen as what they call a mud shark. She was slumming. Apparently, she was basically the pits of her community, and the only people that would look her way were black men, or people that she would throw herself at were black men. So he's not the only one with, let me rephrase that. His father is not the only man she's ever been with, as he said that his siblings are from relations that she had with other black men. I don't know how many siblings he has. He just threw out siblings, so that could be definitely more than 2 because he didn't say siblings. Another thing that stuck out to me was when his dad said, "Really? She never said that to me. It's a reason she didn't say that to you. She wanted to come off as some type of way to you. And I'm willing to bet she didn't say that to the other men she slept with and procreated with either. But when she had them kids, a possession, so to speak, because really, if you think about it, that's probably how she saw her children, as possessions and not her kids. That's when she decided to unleash her true side. And why am I not surprised that it was a PC woman? Again, they keep trying to hold them up as if they're so delicate and so innocent. Where do you think that man gets it from? Where do you think they learn that behavior from? Tina said his father's response was trash, like he knew she was racist, but he was lucky to dodge the N-word. Exactly. I'm glad you said that, because that was another thing. It's like his father was like, "Oh, wow, I'm one of the lucky ones. She didn't call me the N-word." I'm sitting there saying to myself, what kind of response is that to give to your son, who was literally telling you something that clearly was weighing on his heart for years, that he obviously probably never told you up until this point? It took him to adulthood to tell you that, something he couldn't even tell you as a child. I could only imagine what was going on in that household, This also kind of reminds me of what the DeBarges went through, but flipped on the spectrum, because their mother was black and their dad was French white, and he was very anti-black to them as well, and very abusive to their mother. I'm willing to bet that a lot of this goes on in these homes than people allow. That's why it irks the hell out of me when you have a lot of, whether it's a male divester or a female divester, who are trying to run and get into these type of relationships because of some vanity fantasy that they're trying to fulfill. You don't know these people. As a matter of fact, I have a video coming up, not next week because I already looked it up. It's probably going to come the week after. That's going to display just that. The consequences of this kind of stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to show y'all that. And also, to those of you out there who are biracial, you see logic right here, right? I told y'all he could easily pass. I told y'all he could easily pass. Now, you got to think, this is how he looks as an adult. This is how he looks as an adult. Logic is probably around, I think he might be slightly younger than me, but he's in my age bracket. Imagine how he looked as a kid. If he could pass now, as a kid, they probably thought he was white, like lily white, like a little white boy. If him looking the way he does as a kid, because that's when he says his mother said these things, did not shield him from anti-blackness at the hands, or should I say the words, of his own mother, a woman that pushed him out of her womb. Don't think for a second that you can go out into this world and it can't happen to you. She let him know early on from day one that he was a nigga. No matter what womb he came out of. And not only him, but his siblings. She let him know day one who he is. She said, I don't care how light you are. I don't care how much you look like you're me, you're not. It's not like I really liked your daddy anyway. I just like the feeling. Clearly, because that's who she was attracted to. He said she hopped from soul pole to soul pole, from BBC to BBC, like a little jackrabbit, and had kids with every last one of them. And the way she felt about him is the same way she felt about the rest of her kids. Begs the question why she would even have them, but I'm guessing, my hunch is she wanted to have an opportunity to express how she felt to her offspring in the same manner that her ancestors did. Pause moment. Forgive me. But y'all know what I meant. And I wonder, is that was Courtney Clenney? I wonder if that's how she is, or how she was. Something just tells me that she is. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Now, let's get to the last and big story of the day. This Beyonce situation right here. So, for those of you who are unaware, Beyonce has released 2 new songs off of her upcoming album called Act 2, which is basically the sequel, or basically the sequel to Act 1, which was called Renaissance. And Act 2 is supposed to be country based. Now, Beyonce has actually dabbled in country before when she did that song called Daddy Lessons on her Lemonade album. And then, of course, she did that rather, I guess you could say, controversial performance, if by their standards, with the Dixie Chicks, who've been canceled for many years because of what they said about George Bush back in the early 2000s on the CMAs a few years ago. Got high ratings, but they still were upset about it. And before I go any further, shout out to DSB for the $3 super chat. So she released released 2 new songs. She actually dropped them on the day of the Super Bowl. And the songs are called Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages. And it says the Beehive convinced country radio to play Beyonce's Texas Hold'em after request denied by an Oklahoma station. Now, keep this in mind. Beyonce is from Houston, Texas. You can't get much more country and southern than that. So when she's dabbling in country, she's really already, this is part of her heritage when you want to be quite honest. But because of who she is, they did not want to play it. But one thing the Beehive was going to do was they were going to stand by their queen bee, and start stinging, because they eventually broke down and started to play the songs. But I'm gonna go ahead and read the article coming from People. The Beehive laid their cards down, which is a lyric in her recent song, to get Beyonce on country radio. After Queen Bee, age 42, released 2 country songs, Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages, on Sunday as she announced a forthcoming album with the genre, her fans went viral as they convinced an Oklahoma country music station to play one of her new tracks after previously denying a request. On Tuesday, a fan on X, formerly Twitter, prompted a conversation online about whether the Grammy winner's new music would be welcomed into country airplay after posting about their failed attempt to request Texas Hold'em on Oklahoma station KYKC 100.FM. The person wrote, "I requested Texas Hold'em at my local country radio station, which is KYKC, and after requesting, I received an email from the radio station saying, 'We do not play Beyonce on KYKC as we are a country music station.'" And that's a picture right here of the email that the person left. They said these stations do not discriminate in the sale of advertising time and will accept no advertising that might discriminate on the basis of race, gender, or ethnicity. Advertisers hereby certifies that it is not buying airtime under this contract or proposal for a discriminatory purpose, including but not limited to decisions to place advertising on this particular stations on the basis of race, national origin, and it continues on and so on and so forth. X user Just Atto shared a screenshot of their email exchange with the radio station and wrote, "I requested Texas Hold'em at my local country radio station KYKC, and after requesting, I received an email from the station saying that they don't play it. This station needs to be held accountable for their blatant racism and discrimination against Beyonce," they wrote on a follow-up post. As they also tagged fan account at B Legion in their original post, the Beehive assembled to inform KYKC about the superstar's transition into country. And shout out to Jerry Bedford for the $20 super chat. Hashtag Beehive. Let's kindly educate Oklahoma country radio station 1000 KYKC that Beyonce's upcoming project and already released singles are indeed country music. And I actually heard both songs. They definitely dabbled. That's real country right there. Like, you can hear the sounds right there. "Remember to be kind and diplomatic," the fan account posted, adding the station's X handle. In the replies, many fans wrote that they called in or sent an email to KYKC, and some even posted videos of their calls playing audio of the song to the station on TikTok. Now, if you see right here, This is lots of calls are coming in. So these are the calls right here. After the Oklahoma radio outlet appeared to respond to several fans on X by saying they would play Texas Hold'em when it began charting higher on country music charts, they posted that the song was being added to their rotation. Lots of calls coming in for Beyonce's Texas Hold'em. It's coming up in minutes, they wrote in a Tuesday afternoon post featuring a photo of their playlist with the track slotted between Zach Bryan's Tishomingo and Carrie Underwood's Wasted. KYKC's general manager Roger Harris also explained their initial reason for denying the song request on Today in a Wednesday interview, revealing that the station wasn't aware of it at first. I call BS. That is the politically response answer. I call BS. We initially refused to play it in the same manner if someone requested us to play the Rolling Stones on our country station, Harris said in a statement to Today. Fact is, we played Beyonce on 2 of our other stations and love her. She's an icon. We just didn't know about the song. Now you got to think about this. People were calling in to request on a country radio station to play this song by Beyonce. They've never got a request to play a song on a country radio station by her before, but they call in to request this one. What would make you think that the song they were requesting was a non-country based song? Like, let's think logically here. Did you really think they was calling in to have them play any of her other songs outside of this genre? No. As in they've never called in before, except for probably Daddy Lessons, because that's the only other country song that she's done. They think we stupid. The general manager revealed that once they found out about the song, they tried to access it and have since played it several times on the country station. Harris added, "We are not a big boy station and getting record companies to service us is tough." The statement continued, but finally we got our hands on it, and based on the fan support, we decided to air it. Truthfully, normally we would usually wait a while to see how the song performs on the charts and bigger country stations than ours, as we are just the little guys. According to Billboard, Texas Hold'em was officially serviced by Columbia Records to country radio on Tuesday. The song was also reportedly added to CMT streaming stations and several Spotify and Apple Music country playlists. Beyonce surprised her fans by dropping her 2 new singles on Sunday in the midst of the Super Bowl, shortly after her ad with Verizon aired during the broadcast, and she posted a teaser revealing that Act 2 was due out in March. The pop icon shared a teaser on Instagram, seemingly inspired by the classic 1984 Western Paris, Texas, and featuring a group of bystanders in the desert looking up her at a billboard while a snippet of Texas Hold'em played. The songs each featuring their own country-inspired single artwork and roots sound dropped shortly after. The full project, which is currently untitled but being referred to as Act 2 of Renaissance, is due out March 29th. It comes a little over a year and a half after the acclaimed house-inspired record arrived in summer 2022. So that's that particular article right there. But there's one other additional article that I have to go over as it relates to this, which is why I saved this story for the last part of this as the last story to talk about on this particular stream. And shout out to Harvey over at Your World, because he was the one that made me aware of this. And that's this right here. John Snyder. Now, for those of you who are of a certain age, knows that John Snyder was on the Dukes of Hazzard, which was a very popular show back in the, I would say, late 70s, early 80s. And he really just, after that show was done, he wasn't really seen much of anywhere after the fact. And then he started popping up in little things. And then the next consistent thing that he really got was on Smallville. And then when that was done, he ended up on this show called The Haves and the Have-Nots, which was made by Tyler Perry. And now you really don't hear much of him anymore, except for when he wants to really show who he is. And that's basically him being as anti-black as he possibly can. So this article was posted on Newsweek yesterday on the 15th. He said Beyonce is compared to a dog by country music singer. I didn't know that John Snyder did music, and if he did, it sounds to me like his music was non-existent. Beyonce dipping her toes into country music is like a dog peeing on a tree to mark her territory, according to a former TV star. That's what he said. Dukes of Hazzard actor John Schneider slammed the entertainment industry for not letting conservatives have country music to themselves in a new interview. When I tell you this statement right here, if I was not going to read anything else, that one line right there told me everything I needed to know in that one line. He's basically saying that country music belongs to white people or white conservatives. I did not know a genre of music was politically leaning. He said only conservatives are allowed in the room when it comes to country music. Let's keep this in mind. Who started country music? Shoot, I'll throw another one in there. Keep in mind who started all forms of music, or at least a very high chunk of them. See, he's scared that this could open the doors for a lot more Black people to get into country, or should I say get back into it, because getting to would simply mean we were never there at one point. But keep this also in mind, y'all. There are also Black people that are in country right now that you don't get any airplay from because they keep pushing out a certain look of country artists. And her getting into this is going to now say, oh, not only will it help to bring the Black people to the forefront who are already doing country music, but it'll bring in another audience, an audience that they don't want. Well, at least the ones he doesn't want. Let's continue. Beyonce surprised everyone when she released 2 new country songs on Sunday, Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages. She also revealed she will be dropping an entire country album on March 29th. But not everybody was happy with some country stations refusing to play her music. Schneider appeared on the OAN network. That's another red flag. The fact that he was on OAN. In case y'all do not know, OAN is basically another form of Fox News. To share his thoughts, and was asked by the host about how the entertainment world and the quote-unquote lefties, more code speak, has to seize every aspect of culture. So what he's trying to say is that Beyonce, a woman from Houston, Texas, who has a southern drawl when she talks and can easily ooze herself right into the country genre, is somehow colonizing country music. Again, a genre of music that started with Black people. This is nothing more than projection. They got to mark their territory like a dog at a dog walk park. You know, every dog has to mark every tree. So that's what's going on here. The clip was shared to X, formerly Twitter, with people weighing in with their opinions. Country music was created by Black folks, replied one person. Another added, crossovers are not new. Paul McCartney released a country song 50 years ago called Country Dreamer and Sally G. Even the Stones had a huge country influence called Dead Flowers, Faraway Eyes. So don't understand this about Beyonce unless it's because she's Black. And the third commented, but Beyonce is from Texas. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play this clip in which John Schneider, again, is on OAN and what he said.
The lefties in the entertainment industry just won't leave any area alone, right? They just have to seize control over every aspect, don't they?
Now, look who's leading the conversation. What did we just talk about in the Logic story? Who will be leading the charge with them, with that anti-Blackness? That PC woman. Because when I was reading it, I didn't know that she was the one that said that part with the lefties and whatnot. I thought it was him. But look who's starting off the conversation, a white woman.
They've got to make their mark, just like a dog in a dog walk park. You know, every dog has to mark every tree, right? So that's what's going on here. Talked about what they did is they were in country music and they went out. You know, that's one thing. But people coming into country music have because I know a little something about country music.
Who gives a damn what you know? But notice what he said, like a dog marking their tree, and he said they, and he's referring to Beyonce. But guess what? Beyonce would be considered a proxy. So he's not just talking about her. He's talking about Black people in totality who dare get into the sacred, conservative country music genre. In other words, they don't want too many Negroes over there. Keep in mind, it was Negroes that started it. And it was people like John Schneider who colonized it. Just like they did with rock and roll. But I just wanted to tell you, like, let y'all know of how he compete. He mentioned a dog. Beyonce's new music has stirred up debate about the origins of country music and Black people's role in creating it. Filmmaker Ken Burns delved into the topic for his 2019 documentary, Country Music. He examined how African and African-American music and instruments helped lead to the creation of the genre. Black American style was embedded in country music from the very beginning of its commercial history. You can't conceive of this music existing without this Black American infusion. But then as the music developed professionally, too often Black Americans were forgotten. Historian Bill C. Malone says in the documentary. Burns himself said in a 2019 interview with Pitchfork, "I've been working on a documentary of the history of country music for the past 8 years, and people everywhere want to ensilo country music into its own narrow thing. Country music is telling stories that all of us experience." And that is the end right there. But that's basically what John Schneider was saying. And he basically is upset because something he feels is sacred. Again, it was already sacred when we did it, but you know, colonizer going to colonize had to come in and snatch it away. And see, what they do is they'll take that genre, they'll squeeze Black people out of it, and then try to claim that Black people don't know how to explore their musical taste. Why is it that Black people only want to cater to R&B and hip hop? Why can't they go do rock? Why can't they do country? Well, guess what? Black people were in rock and they were in country, but they got squeezed out of it. And now that they're slowly migrating back into it, people like John Schneider have a problem with it. He feels that we are invading him, or not him, but in the genre of music that, again, was created by Black people, Black Americans specifically. Well, that is John Schneider's own personal hangup. But I'm not surprised by him. And shout out again to Harvey, because he did a very thorough breakdown about this guy and his anti-Blackness over the years, even dating back to when he was on Smallville. What he's really upset is that you have this woman, this Black woman, whose career came after his began and is doing leaps and bounds and rotations around his several times over before he can even kick off the dust off his feet to begin to start running. See what anti-Blackness will do to you? Not only will it age you and decay you, but it'll hinder you. And he fits the bill for all three of those categories. So, since John Schneider, that like I said, that's his own personal problem. It's not going to stop the music from being released. And they should be happy about this, because you're going to get a new audience. You're going to get a whole new audience. She may perform these songs at one of the several country music awards they have throughout the year. and your ratings will skyrocket. They should know from what happened a few years ago when she did that Daddy Lesson song with the Dixie Chicks. They said the ratings went up sky high during that performance. And the minute that they were done, they dropped. I thought we lived in a so-called capitalist society. I thought y'all was all about the money. Apparently, you may not be. Now, one last thing I have to add, because I almost forgot to say it. Jay-Z, Sean Carter, I want you to hear me and hear me good when I say this. You got up on stage at the Grammys while accepting the Global Impact Award. And you said in so many words that your wife, Beyonce, has all these Grammys and not once has she won Album of the Year. Fair enough. I want you to get up on a grand stage and call out John Schneider for what he said about your wife. Now that will impress me more than you getting up on that stage and doing what you did at the Grammys about a week or so ago, over a week ago. That will impress me. A lot of people have a problem with Monique's husband, Sydney, speaking up for her, but at least she has a man that's speaking up for her and by her side while he's doing it. That's my call to action for Sean Jay-Z Carter. Will he do it? Based on my chat, it doesn't look like he will. Should he do it? Yes. That would very, very much so impress me. And with that being said, I'm going to bring this live stream to a close. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Again, shout out to everybody who came through. Let me acknowledge the people who donated: DSB, Denise Scales, Byron B, Hackson KT, Derry B, and Jerry Bedford. And also shout out to Sabadon for sending me the super chat. I greatly appreciate it. Shout out to everybody who watched. For some reason, it got cut off early over on Instagram. I don't know what that's all about. It is what it is. But shout out to everybody, the members, the people here on Patreon, the people in Discord, the people over on Instagram, and all of that good stuff. Thanks for watching. I will be on here tomorrow with the 11 a.m. premiere video, which is up right now. So make sure y'all go and have y'all notifications turned on so you can go ahead and check that out when it premieres. The poll will be up on Sunday at 8 a.m. as usual. So get ready for that. And with that being said, y'all enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I will talk to you in the next one. Be safe and be one.